La tradition feels so alive. Summer rhythms flame, we're gonna thrive. Go, 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 oh, shout it aloud. Hear the summer sun, we're a summer loving crowd. Talking Brazil ball, we're breaking it down.
Hello and welcome back to Talking Brazil Ball, the podcast all about Brazilian football. Flamengo extend their lead at the top of the table. Palmeiras blow Inter away, and the Mirassol machine keeps on marching on. All of that and so much more. Maybe not that much more, but some more in today's episode of Talking Brazil Ball. Yeah, hello everybody. We're back after the international break. It feels like a bit of a bitty kind of middle of the season, but we're here again to look back at another busy week of action in the Brasileirão. Like I said, plenty to get into, and I'm joined as always by George. George, it's been a full round of fixtures and then a little bit more, a bonus game this morning, wasn't there?
Yes, come by to everybody watching and listening, and come by to you, James. How are you doing? You enjoyed the week, and we're here again, obviously, after the international break. I don't think Brazil did so well, did they, James? Losing to Bolivia in one game. I think they won the other game, didn't they? But it's not gone to plan for Carlo Ancelotti, really. But how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. I think they beat Chile. I think it was 3-0, pretty resounding win. They did qualify. They finished up in fifth, actually, in the table. So not a particularly good or memorable qualification for Brazil. But qualifying at the end of the day is all that matters, isn't it? They were always going to do that. Ancelotti can't take the blame for the kind of rubbish of most of the qualifiers. So fair enough. But yeah, a disappointing result against Bolivia for sure. But yeah, we're not here to look at Brazil as much as we might like to, George. We're here to dive back into the Brasileirão. There's been a lot going on, as I mentioned, but before we do dig into it all, I don't know if you've got a quiz of the week prepared.
You know what, James? I haven't actually this week. I've cocked up on that front, to be fair. But I mean, I don't know if you want to.
On a lot of fronts this week, I think, haven't you?
Yeah, it seems to be, doesn't it? Seems to be, but yeah, cocked up with that one there. Well, I don't know if you've got a quiz for me, have you? I don't know. Maybe you have.
Yeah, I've got one.
Have you? Okay.
Who was
reverse the tables?
Yeah, no, I haven't actually. I'm just lying. I was seeing if I could make one up quickly, but I can't. So no worries there. No quiz today. That's fine. I guess the listeners can make up their own quizzes. If you're listening on YouTube or Spotify, if you are doing, we haven't had a listen on Spotify for a while, I don't think, but we've got a few out there on YouTube. So come up with your own quiz. Let us know. We'll try and answer if we can. Anyway, well, no quiz then. I guess we better dive straight into the fixtures. Like I said, there was a full round 23, and there was also one of the game in hands of Botafogo and Mirassol. So I mentioned there the Mirassol machine marches on. It was ground to a halt slightly by Fogo this morning, but not entirely. So why don't you run down those fixtures, George, and let us know where we're up to?
It would be a pleasure of mine, James. So off we go with round 23. Started on Saturday, the 13th of September with Fortaleza 2, Vitória 0, Grêmio 0, Mirassol 1, Palmeiras 4, James Inter 1. I know Mercado is still there, but he's hanging by a thread, I think. Into Sunday, September the 14th, Fluminense 0, Corinthians 1, RB Bragantino 1, Sport 1, Galo 1, Santos 2, Galo 1, Santos 1, Juventude 0, Flamengo 2, Sao Paulo 1, Fogo 0, Inter Monday the 15th, then Vasco 2, Ceará 2, and the match to end of James on Tuesday the 16th of September, Rio 1, Cruzeiro 2, and then the rogue one from this morning, from round 12, it says here, Fogo 3, Mirassol 3. Mirassol came back from 3 goals down at half-time to tie the game, James, and get a point.
Yep, even though they couldn't win again, Mirasol, it's a quite incredible result, really, away at the champions, even though they're not really playing like champions. They are still champions, and for Mirasol to come and turn that around, it'll only strengthen their kind of morale. They're up in fourth at the minute. It's still, it really is an unbelievable performance from them. We didn't, because it was the international break, George, last time out, we didn't actually look ahead to the next round of fixtures to do a game of the week. So we unfortunately haven't got one to look at each this time. So we thought instead we just have a bit of a roundup kind of maybe some standout fixtures of the round there. So is there any that you would like to look at? There's a few kind of ones. There wasn't really many shocks, I wouldn't have said. The one that catching my eye is a big result for Fortaleza against Vitoria, but I don't know if there's any that you were looking at there you want to just talk about.
I know we're going to speak about it anyway, James, but you can't deny the Palmeiras result, really, the 4-1 thrashing of your side into and that one, I know we're going to talk about that one anyway, so maybe other than that, and one that we probably won't speak about, it's got to be, none of them really look that enticing, do they, to be honest, and there was no real big goals or anything like that, big results, score fests, goal fests, there weren't many really, so, Vargalo maybe, one apiece with Santos. I think it was Sampaoli's first game in charge, that one, James, potentially. Yes, it was. Yeah, his first one in charge. Bit of a non-starter, though, with a 1-1 against Santos. Voivoda's not long since come in. It was only his his third game in charge of Santos. So, that one was a bit, again, maybe a little bit of something with those managers and new managers in there, but the game again was a little bit nondescript, and nice little goal from Gomez, and then Suarez just leveled the piece in the final knock into the game with a penalty. Absolutely rolled it into the bottom corner there, but was again, I'm clutching at straws a bit, James. You could probably tell I'm not really enthused by any of the results this time.
Yeah, it doesn't really sound like it. The one thing to mention from that game, the Gallo and Santos one, is some people might recognize a name on the substitutes list there, Robinho Jr. And he is, of course, the son of Robinho, disgraced former Brazil international Robinho. And I mention it just because I saw some reports that Liverpool were actually keeping an eye on him. They were actively scouting Robinho Jr. as he's playing for Santos. So Liverpool scouts might well have been at that game that you're not very infused by, George. So hopefully they were more infused by Robinho Jr. He only came on for the last 10 minutes or so, but he's one to keep an eye out for on the young player of the round. He's played 4 games now for Santos, so he's in the mix.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't know that, actually, James. I didn't know that, and like we said, though, I think the least said about his dad, probably the better, isn't it, really? But that doesn't mean that he's going to be, he might be a better player than his dad in his own right. I was watching videos of Brazilian goals, the other day, and Robinho seemed to pop up quite often, actually. And so did Neymar, who, of course, was playing in this game as well for Santos. Seems to have, calmed the storm a little bit after he did have a little bit of a reprieve, didn't he? Got a couple of goals against Juventude start of last month, and then he just seems to have gone back to his old kind of, he's not really doing a great deal. Obviously didn't in the end get his move to Europe, but there you go.
He's not really. He's playing a fair bit more than I thought he might do. He's started 11 games, but he really isn't making any kind of impact for the kind of quality he has. 3 goals. It's not great. You'd imagine he'd be not getting on the pitch much, but when he was making a difference, and he just isn't really. So he did start this one. He was actually taken off. I think he was taken off for Robinho Jr. in the end. A bit of a passing of the guard maybe, but not a particularly incredible game to look at that one. George, let's look instead at that Fortaleza one, because that was a big kind of result for them. First win in quite a long time. Obviously, the new manager's come in, Martin Palermo. We spoke about that last time. I think that was his first game, and it was their first win for some time, actually, George, and it came against Vitoria, who were a few points above them. They were actually 7 points above them at the start of the game. So really important one for Fortaleza to win and close the gap on the relegation candidates. So they're now still 5 points off Santos, who are in 16th place in safety. But that was a really big result for them.
Yeah, it was first win in 7, would you believe, James, since back end of July, so with a win over Bragantino. So yeah, they obviously that saw the end of Vojvoda's reign, and the new man, it will be delighted to get on with a win, in only that was his first match in charge, wasn't it? So Mr. Palermo. So yeah, what a good start, bit of lease of life. We know what a manager bounce can do, James. And it, obviously did for Fortaleza. Big result, really, with Vitoria being down there as well. And obviously, like I said, 5 points in it between them and Santos in the Holy Grail of 16th place. So let's wait and see. Can they jump up now with Palermo's help? Early signs would say they can, but it's only early signs, and they've really got to do a lot better. Hopefully this, from their point of view, I know we've got some people that, certainly last season were listening from a Fortaleza point of view, and hopefully, they'll be happy with that win, but they really need to see some more improvement because, we're not early season anymore. It is set in this, really, you would say. What is the 15 games to go, I think, James, something around that. So, yeah, there's not many more to go, really, for them to haul themselves up out of it, to say that was the first win in 7.
Yeah, they're still, like I said, 5 points, 2 wins away, and they can't go 7 more they can't wait 7 more for the next win. That's for sure, really, because that'll be pushing towards the end of the season already. But yeah, maybe better things ahead under Palermo. Sao Paulo got a good result after losing the one before the international break against Cruzeiro, but they beat Fogo. They're looking pretty good up in 7th, and Crespo still doing well over there. Sport Recife got another late draw, George, away at Red Bull Bragantino, who have continued to kind of stutter. Recife been really kind of in steady form, to be fair. They lost a couple, didn't they? But prior to that, I think they were unbeaten in 4 or 5. I mean, they're definitely going to go down, but I mean, they've drawn 8 out of 21 games. Nobody in the division has drawn more other than Mirassol. So it's, they're still relatively hard to beat.
Yeah, I think, Sport Recife, they are hard to beat. I saw them, the manager, going wild, obviously, when there's a little bit of a poker goal by, I can't remember who got the goal on the weekend, Lasada. Yeah, it was a little bit of a poacher's finish. Battled around in the box, and he just managed to tap it in. The manager was going wild at the end, and yeah, look, while there's a chance, there's life in them, I think. And all right, they're drawing a lot of games. It's better than losing. And I think at this point, maybe they'll not have settled to have gone down, but they'll be a bit like, well, we at least we're not losing games now, So they had a really awful start to the season, didn't they? But now they're doing a lot better, and I hope that late point, it shows that they don't give up and they keep going to the end, and maybe it might turn to wins as the season goes to its close. And I don't think it'll be enough to keep them up, but then again, stranger things have happened. They've just got to keep going. Any point's a good point, really, in the league. I know it isn't when you're bottom of the league on 11 points, but still, any kind of point in the top division is okay, and they'll see it like that. I think they've only lost. Well, they've lost a few now. I think going, no, they haven't, have they? They've only lost 2, haven't they, over the last few? So, yeah, they've been in decent form, but like you said, on the verge of relegation, really.
Yeah, that's true. Flamengo got a 2-0 win. Still, like I said, extend the lead at the top over Palmeiras, who you mentioned them there at the top, George. I think let's talk about them then, because they are I mean, we've got a double award this week, which doesn't happen very often. Regular listeners will know it has happened in the past a couple of times, but never for this chap here. So he's won the Player of the Round and the Young Player of the Round, and very deservedly so as well. Georgia is a man who we've spoken about plenty in the season so far. Vitor Roque from Palmeiras. He's had a really Roque start to his life in Palmeiras, having come across from Barcelona. But he's now starting to thrive, George, and he's hit a hat-trick here in a big result, like you mentioned, unfortunately for me, against Inter. Doesn't get any better for Inter, but does get better for Roque. A hat-trick in this one, Palmeiras 4-1 winners, and he's got to scoop both awards.
Yeah, he's won both awards, so we might as well play them up both at one time, James, if it's...
Oh, yeah.
5 stars. He's gotta be player of the round.
And then we've got this one.
The future ahead for
How far can he go? It's the young player of the round award.
Yeah, there you go. He's got both of the tunes in his back pocket this week. Vitor Roque, a good trick. First one came after just 3 minutes, and he completed the hat trick actually before half time. The last one coming on 42 minutes into, by that time, well beaten, ended up being a 4-1 defeat. So yeah, Roque, this is a big kind of statement performance. Maybe this can be the one which kind of really turns ahead of maybe even Ancelotti.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to, you've got to realise, James, like he is winning the Young Player of the Round awards. He's still only 20 years old, is Vitor Roque. I mean, he's putting in a bit of a purple patch performance here. He got a goal very early this morning, English time, as well. Palmeiras take a 2-1 advantage back home after beating River Plate in Argentina. Roque got the second of the 2 goals. Got a hat-trick, as we're talking about here against Inter. And in the previous game, before the international break, of course, he scored the goal that, in the Paulista derby against Corinthians. And he also got a couple of assists in a 3-0 win over Sport Recife as well before that, in the game before that. So he's had a few good games. And like you said, this performance, you're judged on goals as a striker. And this might be a coming-of-age performance for Roque. The 3 goals themselves, you've got to say, I mean, I could have scored all 3, to be fair. But, you've got to be in there. I am wearing green, but I'm not wearing the green of Palmeiras on the pitch. So you've got to be in that position to score. They weren't hard goals to score, really, from a striker's point of view. I think the first one was probably the hardest one of the 3, but he managed to squeeze it through the goalkeeper's legs. Roche, isn't it, in goal for Inter these days? And and then he was just in. You couldn't stop him scoring. Really, it was a fabulous performance. There was nobody that came close to either of those awards this week either. James, he was a clear winner on both accounts, really. And hopefully, that's 8 goals now, makes his stats look a little bit better. And you're always judged on how many goals you score as a striker. So. Yeah, it improves his stats quite a lot with that hat trick, and if you score a hat trick, you're always in line for the Player of the Round award at least. And with him being within age of the Young Player of the Round, he was always going to scoop that as well.
Yeah, big goal for him midweek, like you said, early morning. Big win for Palmeiras in the Copa Libertadores. I think they'll probably have eyes on that, really. Gone to River Plate to Buenos Aires and get a 2-1 win. They were 2-0 up until right at the end of the game. But you'd fancy them to go through to the semis now, where they could face Sao Paulo, actually. On the other side of the draw, Flamengo are lurking. So we could end up with a Palmeiras-Flamengo Copa Libertadores final, as well as them going head-to-head for the Brasileirão. So that'll be exciting. And with Roque in that kind of form, Palmeiras will fancy their chances. They are still a little behind Flamengo in the table. But obviously they've got those games in hand, which they always do seem to manage to collect somehow. But they'll be going into rest of the season confident that they can overturn that. It's only 4 points. They've got a game in hand still. So, as we said, Flamengo have got a relatively comfortable 2-0 win at Juventude, but they will be wary that Palmeiras are kind of coming for them. And they've got Fortaleza next. So, Fortaleza with the new manager bounce may be tricky, but Palmeiras will fancy the chances. What about Inter, George? It's another loss for them. I mean, three out of 4 they've lost now. It seems as though every single week we're mentioning Mercado now, but they don't seem to change in the table. They're still 12th. It's not like they're in real danger of getting sucked into that relegation zone, although they're only 5 points above it. But another 5 points would put them up in 8th. So, they're not doing awfully, but it feels like another couple of losses. I mean, they've got the derby next, the Grenal derby. Perhaps that might be the one. If they lose that, maybe that'll tip them over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, the table's very congested, as we know it is always in the Brazil around now. It's always from the relegation to mid-table, there's only a handful of points, isn't there? And this is the way it seems to go this season as well. 27 points off 22 games isn't good enough at all, really, is it, when you look at it? But it has them sitting in 12th position, which is, like you said, it's just probably fine given the way that the season that they've had. It's been woeful, really. And Mercado is, like you said, he's on the edge. Surely he has to be. But they just don't seem to want to sack him, which is fair enough. You're going to have longevity, but you're also needing results. And they are in danger, of course, of slipping down the table. And, but like I said, 10th position, if you look at it, and that's mid-table. They're only a point ahead of Inter Fluminense on 28 points. So that only puts them 6 points ahead of Vitória in 17th. So, again, there's not much in it. There's a lot of teams in between them. But, yeah, the derby there on Sunday is a must-win, isn't it, for Mercado and Inter now. Grêmio also obviously need the points as well. They're even below Inter themselves, aren't they, in 14th position. So, yeah, obviously sandwiched in the team there is my team, Galo, who did also as well have a Sudamericana blip yesterday with a 2-0 advantage, squandered, and it ended 2-2. So that was not a good result in Bolivia against Bolivar. But there you go, and San Pauli can't get a win in that competition either. But Inter definitely need a win in the Grenal derby, like you said, James. If not, I think it's a good call to say it's probably curtains for him. Obviously, he's a Grêmio man, isn't he, Mercado, originally, really?
Yeah, I think he saved his job maybe last year when it felt like I think it was on the verge in the same fixture and he managed to turn it around. So we'll see. He's done it before and he has been there over a year now. Like you said, they do seem to be keen to keep him there. So hopefully he can get the result. Right, let's move on, George, to the goal of the round, the only other awards to give out this week. You've picked again this time, so it's going to go. I don't know if there were any real contenders.
Well, there were a few actually, James, and one in the same game that that I've ended up picking the actual winner, and it was, of course, Jean Lucas of Bahia. Lovely goal, this, but it doesn't quite win it. There was also a nice goal, a free kick from your mate Phil Coutinho in Vasco's 2-2 draw with Ceará. But other than that, there was a lot of headers, a lot of scrappy on the line kind of goals. Like I said, Vitor Roque got a hat-trick, but all three of them were pretty standard goals, nothing special. But this one definitely has to win it. And I'll play the jingle before I give the, play it. But, yeah, and it was a man that we know well, James, that the listeners will know. We haven't spoke about him as much this season. He was involved in a bit of a scandal last season for Flamengo, but it's that man Gabriel Barbosa. And this, I don't know if you've seen this goal, James, but it was, quite something. A little layoff from a free kick, and Barbosa takes a couple of touches, advances towards a goal, and just hammers it. in the top of the Bahia goal. And it's right late on in the game as well, the 86th minute. My mate Luis Sinisterra had levelled the game for Cruzeiro. I think only his second appearance for them since being on loan from Bournemouth. And then Barbosa got this wonderful goal. A great strike, James.
Yeah. I mean, he's not really kind of taken off too much, to be fair. He's had a decent season. He's been a bit quiet, really. He doesn't seem to have really felt, well, he hasn't been the main man at Cruzeiro. That's been Caio Jorge, hasn't it? So he's kind of faded into the back a little bit. He has scored 12 goals in all competitions, but 5 of those came in the Mineiro. So he hasn't really kind of stepped up. But yeah, a good moment for him and a big goal, really, to win the game late on. But here, as we know, have been in kind of decent form, although have stumbled a bit recently. And yeah, they were losing this game, Cruzeiro, up until 13 minutes to go. Luis Sinisterra, George, who we spoke about, Joe, I don't know if we did speak about him actually, but obviously a former Leeds player, has ended up in Belo Horizonte. Hasn't really worked out for him since he left Leeds, to be fair. I think he's only on loan at Cruzeiro, but this is a good start for him. And then obviously Gabigol pops up. So Cruzeiro kind of back to rumbling ways, really. Keep on kind of winning. I think that's 5 in a row now. They've won all competitions. They are still up in second. So the fight hasn't gone out of them just yet, has it?
No, absolutely not. They keep going, James. They're well up for it. Like I said, 3 points off Flamengo. Flamengo do have a game in hand, of course, and Flamengo don't seem to be giving up the grip. Palmeiras, a point behind them with 2 games in hand as well. So it's looking unlikely for Cruzeiro. But as we predicted at the very start of the season, James, Cruzeiro would have a good season. Hardim's done a marvellous job. And like you said, James, Sinisterra got the goal to level it with them for them. It was a tap in this one. But, it'll do him well, that, because it hasn't gone to plan since he left my team. A lot of Leeds fans, you mentioned his name, he's not very well liked, James, to be fair, the way that he manoeuvred his way out of Leeds. But there you go. That's what happens sometimes. Obviously injury prone, and he's on loan at Cruzeiro till January of next year. So he comes back to Bournemouth in January, probably to get injured again and probably get sold in the summer, to be fair.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, obviously something hasn't quite gone right for him, has it? So, yeah, and I know he's not a big fan favourite at Leeds, is he? But a good start to him in Belo Horizonte. A good start from him in Belo Horizonte. As for Bahia, George, I mean, that if there was any kind of title aspirations for them, I don't think there would have been really, but they'll be ended by that. 11 points away from Cruzeiro. They do have 2 games in hand as well, but that feels a big stretch for them. They've got to focus on kind of getting top 4, but they did drop off a little in the kind of this stage last year, so Rogerio Ceni will be mindful of that. He'll be disappointed, I'm sure. A couple of really poor results, and they suddenly look like they're going to slip down into that kind of mid-table mire.
They do a little bit, James. Yeah, like some Mirasol are breathing down, have overtaken them now, haven't they? I think.
Yeah, they have.
And they just won't seem to go away. But here, a couple of bad results, and the season slip away. And they're out of all competitions, aren't they? Now, I think they've got just the league to focus on now. So so hopefully they can get some run of form going again like they did previous and boost themselves up a little bit. But there's no shame in losing to Cruzeiro, who are obviously, like you said, flying high. Cruzeiro also, bragging rights were theirs as well. Last midweek, I think they battered my team Galo in the quarterfinals of the Copa do Brasil, a 4-0 win and aggregate. Caio Jorge got 3 of the 4 goals over the 2 legs, I think. And they now face Corinthians in the semi-final. It's not till the 10th of December. On the other side of the draw, James, is Fluminense and Vasco. So, Vasco are doing quite well in their beat Fogo in the last round to have a place with Fluminense in the other semi-final. So
your money's got to be on Cruzeiro in that one. Really, you'd think they'll have an eye on that if they can finish the season strongly in the league and maybe I mean, it seems a bit beyond them possibly to win it, but they're still in there. And if they can win the cup, it'll go down as a really, really good season for them. So we'll have to just wait for that. A long way to wait, like you said, but it'll come around. Right, George, let's move along then. Let's have a look at the fixtures to come this weekend, and let's pick a game of the week this time.
Yeah, let's do that then, James. So in this weekend, it's round 24 of the Brasileirão. Starts on Saturday, the 20th of September, with Vitória against Fluminense as an 8 o'clock kickoff in the UK. And then 10:30 is Fogo against Galo and Ceará against Bahia. Into Sunday the 21st, then 1 a.m. UK kickoff is Palmeiras hosting Fortaleza. 8 p.m. Mirassol hosts Juventude. 9:30 p.m. Flamengo against Vasco. Inter against Grêmio. And Sport Recife against Corinthians. Monday the 22nd also then wraps up game week 24 with Cruzeiro against RB Bragantino and Santos against Sao Paulo, both 12:30 midnight kickoffs. And then there are two games in hand on Wednesday the 24th from round 16, James, all the way back then. Grêmio against Fogo and Vasco, who hosts Bahia.
Yeah, what's sticking out for you there then?
Well, there's a couple of more interesting games here, James, really. And I know there's the Rio Derby. There's a Rio Derby there, isn't there, in there, Flamengo against Vasco. But I think, and Santos against Sao Paulo is a little bit of a derby as well, isn't it? But I'm going to go with, I'm going to go and look at my team and see how Sao Paulo gets on. And I'm going to go with Fogo against Galo. And that's the one that I'm going to look at.
Yeah, should be an interesting game, actually. I'm going to go, you're going to go for your team. I'll go for my team. Big game, like we mentioned there, for Roger Mercado and for Mano Menezes at Grêmio as well. Yeah, Grenal Derby at the Beira Rio. Should be a big game, that one. Well, it is obviously a big game. Should be an interesting outcome. Like you said, George, Grêmio could really do with the points as well. And Mano can't really be far from the chop over there as well. So should be an interesting one in Porto Alegre. And I'll be there, at least in spirit, to cheer on the Colorados as they attempt to turn that dismal form around. Brilliant stuff, George. Right, well, that's a nice little episode for us there, I think. Let's finish it off by getting the table run down, and we can see where all of that leaves us heading into match day 24.
Absolutely, James. So, top of the table is Flamengo on 50 points. Second, Cruzeiro on 47. Third, Palmeiras on 46. Fourth is Mirassol on 39. Fifth is Fogo on 36. Sixth, Bahia also on 36. Seventh, Sao Paulo on 35. Eighth is Bragantino on 31. Ninth, Corinthians on 29. 10th, Fluminense on 28. 11th is Ceará on 27. Also on 27 points in 12th position is Inter. 13th is my team Galo on 25 points. 14th is Grêmio on 25. 15th Vasco on 23. Also on 23 points in 16th position is Santos. Into the relegation zone, James, in 17th position is Vitória on 22 points. 18th is Juventude on 21. 19th is Fortaleza on 18. And last but not least, as always, in 20th position is Sport Recife on 11 points.
Yep, that's it. Sport Recife as ever, piling up, everybody piling up on top of them. But what can you do? Then maybe they'll get another win one of these days. But lots to look ahead to, lots to look forward to there in the coming week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It's been another nice little episode. Oh, there's the music. So, yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Remember, like and subscribe if you can. Tell your friends. We could do with it. So, thank you and see you later.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Adios. Enjoy it.
Adios.
We're breaking it down, bringing the passion from every town. Let the world be filled with love tonight.